Ms. Achenyo Idachaba Obaro is the founder of the company Midimeth. Midimeth produces home and personal accessories made from invasive aquatic weeds that flourish in Nigeria's waterways. Describing her business and the business mission, Mr. Chenyo says, "We are all about informing an environmental problem into a beneficial solution. As a social enterprise that exclusively engages people at the bottom of the economic pyramid, we ask, how can we clean the waterways for riverline communities while also empowering them economically?" It's the morning, but good afternoon. Hello, nice to have you here today. And
all right, thank you very much.
As we had spoken earlier, you did not want to give a presentation. You wanted me to ask you a few questions, and I have some really interesting questions to ask you about your business. Not only are you an entrepreneur, but you're also a problem solver. What a really interesting approach you've taken to social and economic development. Could you tell us a little bit about Midimeth, please?
Absolutely, would be happy to. And first and foremost, just want to say a very big thank you to the Green Institute for this opportunity to share some thoughts, have this conversation with you on this very important day, the World Environment Day. So I look forward to the conversation. Now, before we start, I did have a slide which I had sent, which I would love to be projected in the background. It's just it's a one pager.
Okay.
But like they say, a picture speaks 1,000 words. So I'd like to have that in the background if possible.
Okay, I am going to share my screen and present that. Yep, here we are. I figured it out, and let me share. There we are.
Okay, fantastic. All right, so we start off with the first question to tell you or tell the audience a little bit about Midimeth and what we do. So Midimeth is a social enterprise based in Nigeria. And like Jason pointed out, we are an organization that's focused on solving an environmental and social problem. And we're doing this through enterprise. So we are working with water hyacinth, which is an invasive aquatic weed that is very prevalent, not just in Nigeria, but several countries across the globe. And if you see in the upper left-hand corner of this slide, it's a map of the globe. And this map is essentially highlighting countries where there's a presence of water hyacinth. And it was actually published by the United Nations Environment Program. So the sections that you see in yellow are actually the water hyacinth infested countries. And you would see that, Africa has quite a huge presence of this weed, despite the weed not being native to the African continent. And you'll see other parts of the world, North America, Southeast Asia, Asia Pac, also having this problem of water hyacinth. So we have a global problem on our hands, and Nigeria was no exception to this. And essentially, what I'm doing at Midimeth is looking at how we can valorize water hyacinth and create economic opportunities for communities that are adversely affected by the presence of this invasive weed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really, it's a really interesting topic and idea. So one of the aspects of your work is to train communities to harvest and weave these water hyscinths. That's crucial to Midimeth's work. Can you tell us a little bit about how you recruit people and how you get inform people of this issue and bring them into the fold of this really interesting enterprise?
Absolutely. So, as mentioned previously, it's prevalent in Nigeria, and the genesis of the work actually started using data. And the report had been published in Nigeria highlighting the fact that 26 out of the 36 states of the Federation had this problem with water hyacinth infestation. We actually have about 4 invasive aquatic weeds, but water hyacinth was the most prevalent of the lot. So in looking for a solution to this problem, which would essentially, incentivize communities to actually want to harvest the water hyacinth and then also provide them with alternate livelihoods, I had to come up with a practical solution that would that they'll be excited about. It wasn't just enough for me to be excited about, possible applications of it, but the communities also had to be very interested in this. So in looking at the doing research and looking at, what the opportunities were, I zeroed in on the creative aspect of it, simply because I felt if people could actually see what they were doing and be able to express their own creativity through that process, they will be more likely, there will be that tendency for them to want to latch onto it and probably continue the exploration or exploitation or transformation of this invasive aquatic weed. So I zeroed in on the creative industries, actually looking at how we could weave the plant into home decor, lifestyle products, not necessarily for the communities per se to purchase, but to make it for niche markets, the higher income segments of society. Now, how do we go about recruiting and engaging these communities? Actually, through partnerships, and I think it's key to highlight the fact that what we're doing ties into several of the Sustainable Development Goals. One of which is SDG 17, looking at these global strategic partnerships for the goals. So we partner with both the public and private sector, so organizations within these two spheres, looking at organizations that have a keen interest in seeing community development happen in the riparian communities, because the riparian communities and riverine communities are the ones that are adversely affected by the presence of this weed. And what we do is we go into these partnerships whereby these organizations underwrite the workshops that are carried out in these communities. So it's not the beneficiaries that have to pay for it, but the organizations actually underwrite the workshops taking place. So the beneficiaries, all they need to do is show up and engage in this transformative process during the workshops. So we've looked at it both ways, both public and private, and we've been very fortunate to have had some good successes on that front. And what we do is we just go into the communities, sensitize them to the beneficial uses of the weed, which in 100% of the cases, it's like an eye opener, because they've had this problem for several decades and never realized that there could be some beneficial use to this renewable resource that they have in abundance within their communities. So that's how it starts. It starts with the workshops, and we impart skills on how to harvest, how to dry, and then we now engage in the weaving process.
Yeah, really interesting enterprise. It makes me wonder, is this the genesis of this idea? Was it yours and your team's idea to use the hyacinths, as a yarn or a thread to weave it into these products? Or is this something that was, a traditional practice? I'm kind of curious where the generation or the beginning of the idea for creating these products.
All right. From a Nigerian perspective, it was novel. So this was
Okay.
not something that had been done before. So the artisan economy that we have established was actually established from ground zero. Now, it's not that there weren't weaving practices. We do have traditional weaving practices in Nigeria, but the focus has been on other types of fibers. So we do weave textiles, but we typically weave our textiles using either cotton or polyester threads. And then if we're going to be weaving, decor or lifestyle products for the home, it's either we're using raffia or dome palm. So the introduction of water hyacinth was novel within the Nigerian context. Now, in other parts of the world that have, had a head start, like parts of Southeast Asia, and Asia, yes, this was being done, and in fact, in parts of East Africa. But on the West Coast here, this was novel.
Interesting. Really great. So, Achenyo, I think that this is a really good introduction to your enterprise. It's really great to see how you're addressing SDG 17, building public-private partnerships. You are trying to uplift local communities by giving them a new business model and an opportunity to express themselves creatively. I think it's really fantastic.